Hi, ladies. Welcome back. This is Keri Blair with Style Your Dreams, and I'm so excited to be with you today. And I have a special guest. So I invited Jaki Brockman of Ballroom and Beyond to be with me. And for many reasons, I think this is going to be a really great conversation. But I've known Jaki for how many years have we known each other?
Probably 7.
7 years, because our businesses are right next to each other. And so we've gotten to know each other over the years, and I thought this would be a really great conversation, and we're probably going to go all over the place. So I hope you get value in it. But anyways, Jaki, thanks for being with me.
Thank you, Keri. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So first of all, I love that you've been a dance instructor. So talk to me about how dance has impacted your life and why you started.
Yeah. So I was born into the business, so I'm a baby of the business. So both my parents are ballroom dancers. So when I was, I think 3 years old is when I started dancing.
Wow.
I didn't do any tap, jazz, ballet. It's always been ballroom the whole time. And I remember they used to pick me up from school, and I would go and sit in the ballroom, and I would eat my dinner there, and I would do my homework there, and I would watch lessons. And then as I got older, I started dancing with my stepfather. And we would travel around the world as a family, as like a dancing family.
Wow.
And compete. And then, let's see, when I was about 19 is when I kind of really started coming into my own. And then at 21, I took over one of their studios and completely reorganized it, made it my own. And then, yeah, I had my first studio at 21, and then I started competing professionally a couple of years later. And then I sold that studio and moved to New York, moved to Manhattan, and I managed the top Fred Astaire studio in the nation there.
Cool.
And I did that for 8 years, and I competed professionally there as well. And that's when I started kind of moving up the ranks quite a bit. And then 7 years ago, I decided to make another life move, and I moved back to Denver and started the studio here, which is Ballroom and Beyond, right next to you. And as I was doing that, I didn't have a dance partner to come with me, and I didn't have any sort of male instructors. So I had a friend that lived in New Jersey, and I started having him fly out once a month in order to coach my female students.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically asked me if I would go to the United States Championships with him. Now, we didn't dance together. We didn't dance the same style together. And he was coming out of a partnership, and the girl wanted to move on with her life and start a family and things like that. And so this is a really crazy story, actually, but we can maybe say that for another time. And so I said, okay, yes, let's do it. And that actually was a manifestation that I was actually looking for something like that about 2 weeks before.
Wow.
And I set it into existence. And then all of a sudden the opportunity came along, and he asked me to dance with him. And I said yes, because I recognized that was my manifestation. And we had 25 days.
Oh my gosh.
To get together for the World Championships, which is the biggest competition in the world.
Yeah.
It's where you get your titles.
Yeah.
It's in England, in Blackpool, England. And he was in New Jersey still. We saw each other 8 days in the 25 days. We did choreography online, on video, talking to each other. And I tried to just prepare my body as best as I could without a partner, and mentally prepared. So that's a whole nother game. And we went to the United States Championships, and we placed 6th in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Really fun, right? And then
So cool.
we thought that was it. I thought that was it. And then 2 months before that same competition the next year, he was like, let's do it again. And I'm like, could you have told me sooner, and we could have actually prepared? And so I said, okay, let's do it one more time. And so we did it, and we placed 4th.
Nice.
And so I retired at 4th in the world. So I was pretty happy about that.
I love that.
And so now it's just focusing on the business, and I have another business that we can talk about later.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's pretty much.
Okay, well, there's so many places we can go with this.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the mindset, since you brought that up. So mindset is such a big buzzword right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad it's having its day, but really, we've been dealing with it since the beginning of time.
Yeah, forever.
So what's it like getting your mindset ready for that?
Right. So I think it helped that I had spoken into existence 2 weeks earlier, because I felt like when I said yes, there wasn't a backing out, right? So it was a really strong, like, hell yes.
Yeah.
And so that carried me most of the way. There was definitely a time in that 25-day period where I wanted to relapse. No thanks, sorry, bye-bye. Yeah. And so I did have quite a strong breakdown, and kind of every insecurity came to the surface. Like, what do you think you're doing out there? Like, you're going to ruin your career. Everybody knows you. They've known you since childhood. Like, what are you possibly thinking? You know, so much of that. And I remember that moment saying to myself, like, you either get on the plane or you don't get on the plane. And so I just said, no, you're getting on the plane. So, but until then, my mindset was, like, I wasn't physically in shape enough to compete. And so there was, again, every insecurity coming out of, like, I don't have a dress. What's the dress going to look like on my body? Because I haven't competed. At that time, I hadn't competed professionally in a year and a half, because I was just building the studio. So it was getting myself in shape, but also not burning myself out, not hurting my muscles. So eating as best as I could, sleeping, and then a lot of what I would study would be right after bed. I would do a lot of visualization. It's not necessarily like a technique that I heard of or that I looked up. It was just very intuitive. But I would close my eyes every night and I would go through every single step of every routine that I had. And I really feel like that was my training. So when I couldn't train for hours and my body would shut down, that was my mental training, was everything to me. And I think that's what actually was my biggest, like, gift from the whole thing, was learning how you don't actually have to practice hundreds of hours to accomplish something. If you are mentally practicing it, it is the same, because your mind and your body, they don't know the difference anyway. Yeah. So you might as well, so if you are thinking about it and you're obsessing over it, and also to the opposite of that is if you're obsessing about something really negative, about how you look or how you feel or something like that, your body doesn't know the difference either. Yeah. And so the body will morph itself into whatever it's supposed to look like based on what you're telling it to. Yeah. So I just kept telling it that I was strong and I was healthy and I was fit, and yeah, that's. Yeah.
I love it. I've been a big advocate into visualizing for many, many, many years. And it's funny, with patterns in life, you go in and out, right? But I do it, the time that I'm most consistent is before travel.
Okay.
Because so many things can go wrong.
Oh, nice.
And we travel a lot. So the night before travel, I always visualize, like, getting to the airport and getting our bags checked, and checking in and getting the seat that I want. That's and then awesome. Landing and picking up my luggage and checking into the hotel and getting the room that I want, that's, like, clean and free of energies, and getting the rental car that I want. And I've been doing it for so long that my daughter, every time we go to check our bags, we were just in Europe and we went to check our bags, and she's like, give me a minute. And I went, what are you doing? And she's like, visualizing our bags landing in Denver. And I was like, that's so cool.
That's
right?
Awesome.
So, and I do it with a lot of things in life, but that's one super consistent area, because there's so many things that could go wrong. And most people just leave that up to happenstance, right? And
you actually have a part in it. Yeah.
And you have a huge part in it. And anytime that I don't, then I'm like, oh, see, I knew. I mean, I have this really funny, quick sidebar story, is that we go to our house in Sedona a lot. And every time we go to Sedona, I always manifest, like, the most kick-ass rental car, like a Maserati, a Jaguar, a BMW, like, awesome cars. And people are like, how do you do that? I'm like, I just know they're going to say yes. Like, they have the car.
Right.
Someone needs to drive it.
Right.
Why not me?
Yeah, exactly.
And I could ask and visualize it, and it just happens. So the challenge then is, for me, and probably most people, is doing it for the bigger things in life. Right? And then also dealing with, what if you visualize and visualize and visualize and it doesn't happen? Right. So that's also the next step, right? So how do you handle that? So
I think it's expectation. Like the minute that you put expectation on something, it first of all, it shrinks it, and it stops the momentum of the thing it was going to be. And so I've noticed this in my intuition a lot, is that the minute you take off the expectation, and that's why people are easier to manifest small things, because they don't care if they get the parking spot or not. They like it.
Right.
They don't really care, right? And doing that same thing to something that's big that you actually care about is where you really have to remove the expectation, because you send it out into the universe with complete faith that if it's right for you, it's going to happen, and then you leave it alone. And I think a lot of times we're also like the prolonging of when it does come in, I think has to do with when you get into receiving mode, because if you're constantly asking, it's something you really want, and you're like, oh, I just want to remind you, universe, like I want to remind you again, universe. You're keeping almost that like portal of asking open instead of shutting off, being like, okay, like you took my order, now I'm going to go over here, I'm going to forget about it, and if it shows up, then it's right for me. You know, and so it does actually take, I think, a lot of faith. And when you do the little ones over and over and over again, it becomes validating. And so it definitely builds confidence. But then, how do you go from the little manifestation to the bigger one? Expectation all the way. It has to be completely, if that's not, if it's not right for you, then it's not coming in. So you might as well just let it be.
You know what I've noticed too is that when I'm busy manifesting something, let's say I'm manifesting something and then it didn't work out. I've been noticing the greater purpose in what did show up.
Right.
Which is hard for most people. Most people are like, we're going to manifest. And then they don't get what they wanted, what they were trying to manifest. And then they kind of throw everything out the window. So I'll tell you this interesting story that just happened. So Taylor Swift was just in Denver, and Stella really wanted to go. Well, I didn't really want to spend the money to.
Those are expensive tickets.
It was like, $1,500 a ticket. And I was like, yes, I could, but I don't think that's worth it. So I was like, okay, what are we going to do? And like the day of the show was there, and Stella was dying to go. And I was like, and I would love to see Taylor Swift. So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? And it was coming down to like 5:00. And I'm like, Stella, get dressed. And she's like, what? And I'm like, we're going to go to the concert. She's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, we're going to manifest tickets. Well, little did I know, 100 other people were also going to the concert to manifest tickets. Nice. Which was hilarious, right? And then once you're in the energy of the whole thing, you're like, okay, I have to get these tickets. And you get attached, right? So I'm sitting there and I was like, okay, the concert's about to start. I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to pay for them, right? So I get on whatever, Vivid or StubHub or whatever, and I'm like, I'm just going to pay for them. I can. Just do it.
Okay.
Get over yourself.
So committed now.
Right, because I'm committed and I'm in the energy of the thing.
Now. Yes.
So I get on and I buy the tickets and they're gone. Like I press, meanwhile, back up. During the day I was on Ticketmaster because I heard they released more tickets. 17 times I had tickets, entered my credit card number, and then they were gone. 17 times. Like I had seat numbers and everything. So then we go. And I buy tickets and they're gone. And then I find other tickets and they're gone. And I'm like, how are they selling that fast? Like she's about to go on in 5 minutes, right? It's like almost 8:00. So then the last time I buy them, I pay way too much money, click buy, and it gives me a confirmation. And then Stella and I are sitting there waiting for our tickets in my inbox. Waiting. I start to have a panicky feeling. Taylor's now playing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I see like where the seats are. So I'm even looking for like which entrance is the closest. And I'm like walking over there, ready to run in. Okay. No tickets. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So finally I call the company and I'm like, excuse me, the concert's already started. I paid my money. You deducted it from my account. Like, where are the tickets? Right? And then she has to call the seller of the tickets. And 10 minutes later, she gets back on and says, those tickets have been sold. And all of a sudden I'm like, we're not meant
No.
to go to the concert. Like, I haven't been listening all day,
Mm-hmm.
but that was like a clear, we're not meant. And Stella looked at me and she said, I'm so glad we didn't get the tickets. And I said, why? And she said, your money is more important than Taylor Swift.
Oh, interesting.
For an 11-year-old, right? And I was like, that's so kind that you would think of things like that. Okay, but fast forward.
You got your money back.
We got I think so. I left for Europe a couple days later. I think so. So then when we had arrived that night, there was a lady who we told we were looking for tickets, and she's like, if you don't get them, come back here. You can see the whole concert from this space in the parking lot. Like, you can see the exact Jumbotron and everything.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, okay, so we go back there. Hundreds of people in this area.
It's like a mini concert.
It was a complete mini concert.
That's fun.
You can hear everything. Everyone is dancing and singing and lighthearted and watching the Jumbotron. So we saw the whole thing. But then it gets better. I met this family. And, you know, I didn't pay for a thing that day. Like, they gave me free water. People gave me wine. Like, it was hilarious. And gave Stella a place to stand so that she could see. The whole thing was magical. And then I found out that this family had just, a family member had just committed suicide 2 weeks before. And, you know, I'm very spiritual, and I'm like, I've done almost everything, right? Like, I know healers, I know guides, I know whatever. And I was able to help them and give them resources. And for the daughter's anxiety who found him, and for their life. And I was like, oh, God put me here. This had nothing to do with Taylor Swift. Like, God just used Taylor Swift to get me to meet this family.
Yes.
And that was awesome.
That's awesome.
And what a great lesson for Stella to get, like, and I think this is, I say this story because I think too often people, quote unquote, fail at their manifestations, but they don't look at what they just got that the universe wanted them to have that's better.
Right.
Because yes, it would have been something to talk about, and I love Taylor Swift, and that would have been great, but making a difference in someone's life was way more important that night.
And, you know, talk about like money having your back. Like, it was free, right? And
it was free.
And it's an energetic trade, you know? And so you were giving but getting at the same time. So it's an energetic trade, right?
Totally.
And it might have been more fun to be out in that parking lot than actually in there, you know?
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Because the vibe was different.
Totally.
Like, the vibe inside was like having the best seats and looking your best and singing the right words.
Thousands of people.
Right?
Not intimate at all.
No. And the vibe in the parking lot was like coming together.
Yeah.
You know, so unexpected miracles.
I think that's a beautiful story. I love
Thanks.
that story.
Thanks. They're all around, but, you know. So anyways, so where do I want to take this now? There's so much. Okay,
so
let's talk about that, how much dance changes people's lives, because I'm a big advocate that body movement does, but dance. Talk to me about how dance gives you confidence and changes people's lives.
Yeah. Wow. Well, first of all, let's just talk about moving the body, right? A body in motion stays in motion. It's absolutely true. It is such
I say it to myself every day.
Oh my God. It's so important. You know what I like about our style of dance is that you have a dance partner.
Yeah.
So it's not just like you're free flowing, and that's awesome too. But the interaction between two people, and most of the time it's male, female.
Yeah.
And so I've always enjoyed the like teaching the masculine and feminine, and like watching how they play off of each other, because you can really see a lot into somebody's relationship. I also teach like a ton of wedding couples, so like 40% of our clients are wedding couples.
Yeah.
So also seeing kind of that new love and seeing where they might take their love and where they might need to work on some things. Yeah, exactly. So just the sharing and being together and sharing that experience, I think is really cool. As far as confidence goes, if you're using your body, obviously you feel more confident. It's just like going to the gym, right? So if you're using any sort of muscles, that stimulates actual chemistry in the body that makes you feel, the endorphins and everything like that. And then you have the confidence of like posture. Like we talk a lot about posture. So helping you kind of fix your posture. I'm like, I just did that.
I know.
Right? Helping you try and fix your posture, or enhance your posture. I wouldn't even say fix. I would just say enhance your posture. Like that alone, it might be
changes
uncomfortable
everything
at the beginning. But then when you're standing up, you start exuding confidence just based on posture, then you start living with confidence, right? So
I say that all the time. Like, you want to change your day, stand up straight.
Yeah.
And walk with a purpose, and that will change your entire mindset.
Yeah, totally. So you have the posture aspect of it, you have the partnership aspect of it, you have the music. So like music has frequency.
Yeah.
And so like you're constantly getting frequency and moving your body to the frequency. So it's like frequency playing with frequency. I love the fact that I'm around music all day long, every day. And I forget sometimes when I'm out of the industry for a little while, for whatever reason, I miss the music. So music is a huge part of it. And then of course you have like, if you're interested in competing or something like that, then you have, obviously, like if you're a competitive person, or even if you're not a competitive person and you want to become, or you want to show off, or you want to, like there's so many different avenues you can go with it. But I would say confidence comes from the movement, it comes from the posture, and it comes from knowing that you didn't know something when you walked in and now you know something.
So cool.
And it's something that is muscle memory, which means it stays with you for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And so it's more than just learning. And the learning aspect of it really is great for your mind, like really great. I mean, they've said so many times, it's so great for Alzheimer's and dementia and things like that. So there's nothing, like honestly, there's nothing bad to it. Like nothing bad to it. So
love it.
So yeah, that.
Love it. So you've been in this world for your whole life. And then you are transitioning into different worlds at the same time.
Yeah.
So talk to me about, I think one of the first conversations that we had was you started channeling money.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that.
Okay. So channeling. So I think I was always probably intuitive child, and I was pretty sensitive to energies. When I was a child, I was very shy and kind of introverted. And then through dancing, I think another good thing, through dancing, I kind of came out of my shell and found myself. So I think I've always been intuitive on some level, not knowing what that was. But then I was at a women's retreat, and they were all girlfriends of mine. They were all entrepreneurial women, and we were sitting around a circle, and it was the last day of the retreat. It was the 5th day. And one of the girls said, I need to solve my issues with money, because here I am trying to build this empire for myself, and I have so many issues with money. And so my feet just kind of walked over, and we were doing a deep dive, which means for an hour and a half, we're only working on her subject. Okay. So everyone is there to support and any information that they can offer. So my feet picked me up, and I walked straight in front of her. I knelt down, and I said, well, then just talk to me as if I'm money. And we had a conversation for about 40 minutes. And then I remember standing back up and giving her a hug, and she was crying, and I was like kind of crying, kind of emotional, but like, that's kind of all I remember. And I'm thinking like, yeah, sure. I'm sure she talked to me like I was money, and I talked back. And then I go and I look around the room, and every woman's jaw is on the floor. And they're like, what just happened? I said, I was talking to my friend about money. No. One of the girls is like, you're glowing like gold. I'm like, huh. Another one is like, I think you channeled money. Like the things that you just said. And I was like, really? Like, I had no idea. And we didn't videotape it or anything like that. And so I kind of was like, that's an interesting concept. Like, money would have a frequency. And every one of the girls in that room up-leveled their life and their finances within a month.
Wow.
Three of the girls moved and weren't planning on moving. They moved into bigger and better places. So I started thinking, maybe this is a thing. And then people started finding me. So they started hearing that I had channeled money. I've looked it up before, and I haven't found anyone that actually channels the frequency of money in that way, which is shocking to me.
Yeah.
But people started coming to me and saying, can I have a session with you? And I was like, sure, we'll sit down and try. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I think that my resources from being a dancer in some way has helped me to kind of move myself out of the way and let other things come through if need be. I don't know how that makes sense, but so I started practicing on people of just moving Jaki out of the way and seeing what would intuitively come out and come through. And the better I got at it, the more validation I got from the words that were spoke to somebody. They'd be like, yes, that's exactly me. Yes, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And then they would take the information and they'd apply it. And then, yes, that was exactly what they needed to change their life. And so more validation just created more of confidence in me to go, okay, move further out of the way, Jaki, like let these things come through. And so I started just, actually, I built a little business on the side and called it Abundance, right? Abundance.
Yeah.
Right. So I originally did it so that women actually could come in and they could use their bodies and move, and then feel abundant in the movement. So that's why I started the company that way. But I didn't ever mesh it, at least not yet.
Can we channel money
right now?
Yeah. So that people have an idea of what this looks like?
It's probably easier if I just tell you all the information I know about channeling for money than to bring it in, because I haven't channeled money in a long time. I mean, I could probably speak from the same place, though. I'm feeling it. So...
Not to put you on the spot.
No. She did. She did put me on the spot.
I put everybody on the spot.
So let me tell you a couple things about it. And then, so normally,
see if we can bring it in.
How we channel is like a conversation, right? So if you have questions, then the answers that are going to come in are channeled answers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that will work. But the kind of the most fundamental things that I have learned from channeling money, one, she's a female frequency. And because she's a female frequency, it's because of creation and because everything that creates is a female frequency. And so normally when you say that to people, they're like, what? And then they're like, huh, kind of makes sense because we have dead male presidents on our money.
Yeah.
And our frequency of our American money is so masculine, and it's not anything of what she represents whatsoever. So even that paradigm shift in the mind of like, oh, she's a female, which means you want to have a relationship with her and actually speak to her. And when you speak to her, you speak to her like a female, not like a man. And so it's not a harshness whatsoever. Money is meant to flow in and it's meant to flow out. She's creation and she's very close to the frequency of love and she's very close to the frequency of creation.
Yeah.
And that's why she's in our life everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
And people get obsessed with her or it in a different way than what it was intended to be. Like she literally wants to create, she wants to flow in, she wants to flow out. That's her entire, so she wants to flow to you as abundantly as you'll allow her to flow to you.
Yeah.
Right? So if you are looking for more abundance, then you need to check and see what your actions are when she flows out. And if you're trying to stop the flow out, then oftentimes that's when the flow in stops too.
Yeah.
So when people get in that lack mentality where they get scared and nervous and, okay, I have money now, I'm going to hold on to it. Great. Then you're not going to probably make much more money. You can sit on that little nest egg if you'd like, but it needs to flow.
Yeah.
So one thing that she showed me was thank you money. So I have these stickers of thank you money and I put them I put them anywhere money touches, but I put them mostly on my credit cards. And she talked to me about it's a pay it forward, like literally a pay it forward, right? So it's kind of funny. But it's all about like when you are paying for something that you're also as grateful as when you're receiving something. And,
I love that.
And that flow, that gratitude, both directions is what helps the flow.
Yeah.
So
I try to do that every time I'm paying for something, especially something that's big. I just made this big payment a couple days ago for something I really wanted, but it was a stretch. And I was like, before I hit send, it was a Venmo. And before I hit send, I was like, thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you, God. Thank you, money. Thank you, this person. Like, thank you for what this is going to provide in my life. And so I try to do that, especially, but mostly it's in times that are difficult.
Right.
Like
That's like when
big
people
payments.
pray and they're like, I'm going to pray only when I need
Yeah.
something. God, I need your help now.
Yeah.
Instead of like, I'm going to pray consistently regardless.
Yeah. But I
right?
don't I don't think about it when I go get my Starbucks.
Right.
Like,
So I do.
which I should.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm getting present to like all the opportunities that I should.
And that's why I put that on credit cards,
Yeah.
because the minute you pull it out, it's a reminder
Yeah.
to be thankful for any swipe you're doing. And then when you get things for free,
Yeah.
right? I say thank you money.
Yeah.
So I don't say thank you universe. I say thank you money, because it's money that had my back. It's money that gave me that free coffee. Yeah, the boy was cute and he gave it to me too.
Right.
However, it's money that has my back. And the other thing she says, like, when you find money on the ground, pick it up, because it's her and she's acknowledging you.
Isn't that interesting? And yet we have this thing in our society where you only pick it up if it's a penny, heads up, or what have
Right.
you. And then
Or
we're walking.
I don't need it. Save it, give it to somebody else. Like, that's not what it means at all. It's a wink. It's a wink to you.
Wow.
To say, I see you. I got you.
Yeah.
And yeah, sorry. What were you going to say? Something?
So what's the biggest way? So that's a great tip. What's the biggest way when you feel money is stopped to just like let go and let it flow?
One thing you can do is, if you take your income, if you're privileged to do this and you take your income and it's a third, a third, a third. So a third goes into savings, a third gets spent on bills, and then a third is spent on you. And it's important that you're also filling up your cup and you don't feel like every penny that you're working for is going towards bills or going towards savings or something else, because then you don't have anything tangible to enjoy.
Yeah.
So again, it kind of goes into frequency. And so you need to be able to spend money on yourself. And so even if it's only a little bit of money, like if you're having a really hard time with money, I would say actually start spending money on yourself.
Girl, that
Unless
is
you
never
have-
my issue.
I know.
I know, right? I'm like, yes, preach, because I am 100% aligned with that. Like,
And
if
it doesn't
you
have to be like a ton,
right,
but it's all about self-love. And remember I said the frequency of money is very similar to the frequency of love.
Yeah.
And so self-loving is probably one of the best things you can do to actually bring more money in. And the second thing would be to actually talk to money. So I have my clients personify money. You can go into a meditation and do this. You can just close your eyes and be silent for 10 minutes. But the point is that you're asking money to show itself in whatever personification of your brain or whatever you want to make it to be. But to have a relationship with her, she needs to be a little bit more personified. She needs to be a thing you're having a relationship with. And there needs to be communication. And so talking to her, you might feel like you're crazy, but talking to her and saying, I'm scared right now. Like, I really need your help. Or like, I feel really tight. I just did this actually yesterday. So I also had a huge purchase. First time I spent this much money on myself. So it was definitely a coming of age. It felt really good.
Yeah.
Was really nervous about it. But in the doing that, other things became tight. And I didn't like the way that felt, right? And so I also knew to sit in the tightness of it and to just be with what that feels like.
Yeah.
Okay. But I then said to money, I said, I'm so grateful that I'm able to do this and I can see all the many things that this is going to create on my path. However, I still have other bills that I have to pay and I have other things and it doesn't feel quite right. I need your help. Will you please come and help me? And the very next day, I brought in almost the same amount of money as was taken out.
I love it.
And what I had said when I had asked is I said that I wanted this experience that I had paid for to be free. And that's exactly what it was.
Love it.
And so now it's free because it was just paid off the next day.
Love it.
And so that's what having good communication, but also saying like, I need your help.
Yeah.
Like, instead of just, okay, I'll just hustle more. I'll just do this. I'll just do that. Like, no, I actually need your help. Will you come in and help me?
I love it.
And she has always, if ever I ask her, she has always shown up.
Okay, so this just came up for me.
Yeah.
So, the people that I can think of a couple people in particular, but I'm not going to mention names. But people that are just like make millions and millions of dollars and it's effortless. What are they tapped into that most people aren't? And I'm not talking about people in lack either. I'm talking like they're tapped into something I'm not tapped into. And I'm really successful and make great money. but they're tapped into next level. So what is the discrepancy? What are they tapped into that I need to be tapped into to have it flow effortlessly and like, yeah.
I think there's two things. One is people of that caliber and money have certain systems in place. So that's kind of in the on the human realm. They've got systems in place. They've got disciplines. They allow themselves to do some things and they don't allow themselves to do other things. And they oftentimes are not spending money on things that you would think they're spending money on because they have so much money. They don't need to spend money on those things. Okay. So that would be number one. On a human realm, and then on an energetic realm, they don't have the lack mentality whatsoever, and they are more, I don't want to say gambling, they're more willing to, I'm going to ask, hold on, faith. They have faith. They have a strong amount of knowing within them that they know no matter what, it's going to be okay. And because of that, they gamble at a higher percentage. So it really is your own internal faith with whatever you think is holding you, whether it's universe or source or God or whatever that happens to be, or self. So they just have an extraordinary amount of faith, and they know as long as they're listening to their intuition, that, and they're moving from a place of intuition, and their systems support their intuition. That's what I'm hearing. So they have systems in place, which a lot of people don't. And so the systems, the things that people don't have in place put them in poverty, and they don't realize it because they're spending frivolously for really weird things, but it's because they already feel like they're in poverty. So they're like, I'll just emotionally spend. Well, these people over here don't emotionally spend in that same way. And that's what creates savings on their side. Right. So it has to do with obviously your emotional, where you are emotionally. But that's what I'm hearing is that they have systems in place and that they're being guided by their intuition. I'm asking something else. Yeah, they're being guided by their intuition, and they will go and check back with their systems to make sure both are aligned before they make a move. So the biggest thing, it sounds like, is they're not frivolous in any of their decisions. Whereas when you're a little lower tier, there's more frivolousness in, well, I have the money, I'll just spend it. Well, I have the money, so I can just do that. Well, I have the money, so I'll go ahead and buy these really expensive tickets to Taylor Swift that are way more expensive than what I was going to buy in the first place,
or that they should have been.
Right. Because you're at a very specific spot where you're like, yeah, I do have the money, and so I could.
Yeah,
that frivolousness also.
But it didn't feel good to do it.
No, because you weren't listening to your intuition.
Yeah,
and that's where they're listening to the intuition. And they're going, I don't know if I need to do that.
Yeah.
And they check back with the system. So there is something really important about the systems that they've placed in their life as well.
Yeah. I love what you're saying, because what I got present to is, starting my online business and growing that. There are lots of new expenses and places where I could really invest to make a lot more money. And it is interesting. I love that you said faith and trust keeps coming up, because there are places where I'm like, okay, I should just double down on my Facebook ads and just attract the people, or I should do this, or I should do that. Whatever the investment is, hire a chief revenue officer or whatever it is. And it's interesting. I never considered not doing something as lack, but there's some lack of trust that if I have the divine inspiration to do it, that I'm saying no is a lack of trust.
Totally.
Rather than
like, way of saying it.
God just spoke to you, told you what's next, and you disregarded it. That's on me. Right? So so that's one thing that I just got present to. Is like, oh yeah, I have nothing to fear. Like, there's nothing to fear. Money's got my back.
Totally got your back.
And
it's a lovely thing to say. Like, when you get into that little bit of fear state.
Yeah.
And you go like, wait a second.
Yeah.
you have my back. You've always had my back.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like money has always had our back.
Yeah.
Right? We are still here.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Right.
And so it is a divine energy.
Yeah.
And it's not to be worshipped. Right. We're not supposed to be, worshiping money.
Praying to money every day.
But it's a divine energy, and she has always had our back. Always.
Yeah.
And it's just really been us and where we've been able to meet her on our journey. And if we're willing to meet her further, then she'll be like, okay. Like, the thing is that money is abundant. It's infinite.
It is.
And I know it doesn't feel like that in the US right now.
Yeah.
Right?
But it is.
But it is. You can have, it's not like if you have this much money, you're taking from someone else. And
I hate that mentality.
Really have a hard time with that because they have a lot of guilt around money. And that, that comes from trauma. It comes from family trauma and childhood trauma and all of those things. But for you to know, if I'm going to talk to you guys, for you to know that no matter what your family history is or what people have talked to you about money, it is infinite. You can have as much as you want of it. And she is so ready and willing to flow into your lives in such wonderful, beautiful ways. And she loves to create. So she loves to create magic in your life. So she loves to have you play with her and use her towards something that's going to fulfill your experience here on earth. Like, she does not want you working 18-hour days
to pay bills,
away money to exactly. Like, that's not her purpose whatsoever.
Yeah. I love that because so my mom passed away 2 years ago, and my mom worked her ass off and never did anything for herself. And so I got an inheritance, and I didn't want this money. I don't need that money, right? Like, I do well. And it was hard to like, oh my gosh, she sacrificed her whole life and what she could have had for this money. And so I notice I treat that money differently than I treat my money.
Interesting.
Even though that's now my money. So I had to get to the point where I was grateful about it rather than like, I can't believe she didn't go on vacations and she didn't buy new clothes and blah, blah. I had to let all of that go and be grateful and love her that she really wanted to. Well, she thought she'd live to be 100, not 74,
right.
But that she was setting up her future, but also that she set up my daughter and me in a different way. And but I do notice that I treat that money differently. Like,
it's an outcast.
It is. And it's not incorporated into my money. And whenever I spend it, I check in with my mom. Like, is this something that honors you? So it's like it's still her money rather than that money flowed to me. Not that I'm managing, but it's sort of like...
Well, you are managing it by saying, hey,
isn't that
is
so
it okay
weird? But I do. I check in with her and I'm like, Mom, I think this would really honor you to make this decision. And then I kind of sit with it. And if it feels right, then I do it. But it is interesting.
That is interesting.
But there is some lack there because it's like, oh my gosh, I just got the energy she left got transferred with the money. Fuck. I got to get rid of that bad energy. Not that it's bad, but like, oh my gosh, that is now lack.
That energy is, it's her energy.
And that's why I don't touch that money. Is because it represents lack rather than like, oh my gosh, if I took that money and poured it into the business, like crazy.
It would,
crazy what would happen.
Like a great idea.
Right? Yeah. So that's just an interesting thing to notice. Like, wow, it's that money has a different frequency than my account.
And it doesn't. That money is still money.
Yeah. Right? I've put that interpretation.
You put that interpretation.
Yeah.
And
suppressed it.
You've assigned it to, this is my mom's money, right? And my mom represents these things, right?
And I can't let that money run out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that would be really irresponsible of me for what she just worked her whole life for.
That's tapping into your own trauma, though, too. And
totally.
Trauma, right?
Totally.
Like what we're supposed to be as children.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is like, it's money. It's 100% your money.
Right.
And you're the only one that's keeping it over here, but it's still the same frequency as the money you have in your bank account.
Right.
And so all it's probably wanting to do is like, hi, can we join the family now, please?
Right.
You know?
Okay.
Like,
This is
join the family,
hysterical.
please.
I found this amazing handbag that I want in Venice. I was like, oh my gosh, I love this handbag so much, but I'm not going to spend that kind of money when I'm investing in my business and what have you. And I realized that's more of it suppressing. It doesn't mean I should go out and buy every handbag that I fall in love with.
Right.
I am definitely not saying that. But I noticed like, oh, I could just go buy that. Like I don't have to have like I earned it.
Right.
I need to bring in a certain amount of money to earn that.
That's
childhood. In fact, my husband said to me, well, once your company does this amount of money, you should give that to yourself as a gift. Even that language, right? Like, I have to earn the money. I already damn have.
Yes.
Like,
exactly.
what?
Yeah.
So now I have this whole new way to look at it. Like, do I actually want the purse?
Right. That should be the real
That
question.
should be the question.
Do I want the purse?
I have the money for the
how
purse.
How badly do I want the purse?
I wouldn't even be sacrificing anything else in my life to buy the purse.
Right.
Right. But yeah, so that's hilarious.
It's funny because it is, oftentimes it does take you off track with what you really, that's the real question. Do I even really want this? And that's what
exactly
you were talking about. The higher tier is like, they don't go through the process you're going through as much anymore. They just go, I either want that or I don't want that.
Totally.
You know?
Which I do on lower end things.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
it's like the manifesting, right?
Hilarious.
It's a parking spot or it's the bigger thing. And it's just our expectation we put on it.
Yeah.
And so for the higher tier over here, they have, a lot less expectation that they're putting on things because they have the money for it. They know that they've earned the money already. They don't need to keep re-earning it in order to give it an excuse to be used.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh. We could talk about money for like years.
I know.
Because of there's what we deal with, but then there's what other people deal with. And it's so fascinating to me, but I definitely can recontextualize the way in which I handle her.
Yeah.
Or interact with her and creating a brand new relationship with her because I know she's always had my back. Mm-hmm. And the fear that comes up for me isn't mine. I would say it's the collective. Mm-hmm. That like I tap into the collective.
For sure.
And then I notice, oh, I'm in lack. That's not my lack. Like I live an abundant life where I can have anything I want.
Yeah.
And so I, have to notice
the lack of society, and society has told us to be a certain way.
Even what you just said about the U.S. right now. I don't live in that damn world. Right? And I know you don't either, ultimately. No. But like that's the conversation in the world is like the recession. What recession?
Right. I don't live in that world at all.
Like I know people that are still spending millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like what, doesn't invalidate.
Is thriving and my business is something that's extracurricular.
Right.
So
it's and it doesn't invalidate
more than it ever has.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother issue or a whole nother topic to talk about is if we're having a recession, then why are other aspects of life thriving so much? And what is that where people are spending more money than they normally would in a recession? Like what energy is that with money?
Yeah. Yeah.
And is that trauma or is that complete disregard or is that where they live because they live in prosperity and not lack?
Right.
So
fascinating, right?
No, we'd have to have a whole community here to ask them.
I know. We'd have to do a focus group. Right. Okay, then let's go a little deeper.
Yes.
Because after channeling money, now you started channeling a being.
Yes.
Which is an interesting conversation because some people listening to this podcast have probably never heard of such a thing. Mm-hmm. I have been engaging with Esther Hicks' work for, 25 years. Okay. A long time. So I started my spiritual journey in my teens. Mm-hmm. And
that's great.
Yeah. And I am now about to be 51. So that's a long time. So, so I've been familiar with it. My husband and I have read the book Seth Speaks. Mm-hmm. Do you know that? Mm-hmm. And love that world. So talk to me about your experience with channeling and, is it Eva?
Eva.
Mm-hmm. And what does Eva talk about?
Yeah. Um,
Is it okay if we open this can of worms?
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a big can.
And for those of you who don't know, welcome to the world of channeling.
Yes, exactly. So exactly. So while I was learning how to channel money frequency, like I said, like it just was more validation. I was also on my own spiritual journey of um, what that whole world was, because I was raised Roman Catholic. You know, I went to Catholic school all the way through eighth grade. But I always also felt an affinity towards God, and God and I had our own relationship. So we didn't need priests to speak between us. We
Yeah.
like just always had our thing going on.
Yeah.
We always talked. So I would say 2 years ago, going through my own spiritual journey of just up leveling myself, trying to clear trauma, having heartbreak, learning to love self, you know, all these different things led me to the point where I feel like an open enough, I don't have to say open vessel, because when you say open vessel, it sounds like something came in me and started speaking through me almost like an entity. And that's not what she is whatsoever.
Yeah.
And she actually just corrected me a couple weeks ago. She is not a being.
Okay.
She is a beam. And she said, you keep saying it wrong. And so I was like, okay. And so a being gives this idea that it has matter to it and it might look like a human, right? Where, because a human being, right? And she said, I am a beam. And it is the closest thing that a human would understand is like a beam of light.
I was going to say like a beam of energy.
A beam of energy, a beam of light. But she said, what you wouldn't be able to comprehend is what's in that beam.
Totally.
Right? The coding and all the different things, the information that is in it is not really comprehensible. But she said, can you start saying beam instead of being? And so I said, I will. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I mean, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Beam.
Yes, beam. Yes, beam. A year and a half ago, I would say, I was on the beaches of Tulum. And it's a very spiritual place.
I love that place.
Yes, I'm going there.
Oh my gosh, so magical.
So exciting. And I was sitting out there with a good friend of mine. And this good friend of mine also has a being, and he says being, speaking through him. And I did not at the time. So, but we became really close friends because he wanted me, he could see that with my intuitive skills, I could translate for him. And I was helping assist the communication between his being and him because apparently they have bad communication. So I was able to sit between the two of them somehow.
That seems strange.
Yeah. And communicate. And so we went to Tulum together, and I was sitting out on the beach, and I started feeling this wave of energy start coming up my body. And it happened about 3 times. I think of it right now. And the third time, all of a sudden, I open my eyes and I'm looking at my hands, and then I hear a different voice, and she goes, oh, these are fun. And she's like very sassy and like not my voice at all.
I just got chills.
Yeah. And she was like, oh, these are fun. And so that person that was with me, he had started saying months earlier, I'm going to tell you your name in Tulum. And I said, I don't know what that means. He's like, yeah, I don't know what it means either, but I'm going to tell you your name in Tulum. And I said, well, can you just tell it to me now? He said, no. Okay, cool. So I remember, and so when she's always in, she's always with me now. It's not like I pull her in. It's more like I turn up the volume. So volume is low right now. If I turn up the volume, I can hear her very clearly and she will start speaking straight through me. But she's always with me. So it's not something that I'm pulling in. Where money, I felt like I was actually had to tap into the frequency. I had to pull it in. I had to have it come out my mouth, so on and so forth. It's not that. It's effortless when it comes to Eva. So look at my hands, think, wow, this is fun. Hop on my knees, get right in his face and say, tell me my name. Just like that too. She just did it for you. Yeah. And he goes, Eva. And he said it with that vibration, that frequency, and you can hear it in my throat when I say it. And that frequency, all of a sudden, she just like came like so fully out of me. She was out for 5 days straight. Wow. Jaki was there, and I was observing, and I was hearing everything, and I was still physically there. But Eva spoke for 5 days straight about anything and everything you can possibly imagine. And it was scary for like a half a second. And then it was so cool because she had such infinite knowledge about things that I know Jaki knows nothing about. She didn't learn it in school. She has no idea about. So it just was this infinite knowledge all the time. And even watching her be messy in the room when Jaki's completely like, I unpack and I gotta have everything nice on my vacation. And she's like, swimsuit over there and this over there. And I'm like watching going, okay, this is different.
And could you come back if you wanted to? Like have her not be present?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of stayed in the background, just watching and observing.
Yeah.
I know that there were times within those 5 days, I'm sure I popped back in and was myself. But after those 5 days, I started getting nervous about coming back to real life and what that was going to look like. And because this thing felt so big and so powerful and so beautiful and so self-loving. I mean, it felt like pure love. And Jaki, hadn't experienced that. I hadn't found my self-love yet. I hadn't found other things yet. And so it just felt so divine that I didn't necessarily want to lose this thing, or I didn't know if it was going to stay or what was going to happen. So when I came back from Tulum, it's been a journey, probably I would say for the first year, of integrating why Jaki the human is just as equally as important as the being and the energy frequency that wants to speak through me. And that I think has been a huge journey and a huge gift, because I've learned such self-love for Jaki the human that I never had before. So cool. Because I was constantly judging Jaki the human. And now I realize, like, this beam, any information that comes in has to go through me, and it has to be broken down so that people understand it in such a way. So it has to go through a human, and it's why she's not a human. She's pure energy, and she can't be a human because of her frequency.
Yeah.
Right, is so high we would just combust. But
yeah.
And then over the course of that, kind of marrying each other was then learning what she actually is. And she is the highest version of self. So she's not outside of me. She is me. And she is my highest version of self, and she's connected to creation. So the information that she has that speaks through is of creation. She'll explain creation to you. She'll go so far as to almost break the human mind. But she only sends a sliver of information down to me, which has enough information to last lifetimes.
Right.
But I kept asking her, like, is she outside of me? Because she feels so much like me at the same time. And then I finally got the answer that was needed, which was, no, I am you. I've always been you.
So can I ask you some questions?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay. So there's people that have tapped into their fifth dimension self. Yep. Is that similar? Because it sounds like that's what you're talking about.
Kind of.
It kind of feels like that's your fifth dimension.
Well, no, it's much higher than that. But
yes,
but energy.
Yeah, like your connected self that's much bigger than this 3D world.
Yes.
Or is this beam something distinct from that?
She's way up here. She passes through the 5D in order to get to 3D.
Okay.
But if you think of a light beam, she's at the very top where creation is. And so
I think what I mean is your highest.
Yeah.
Like there's us here, and then there's our fifth degree, and then there's like us that's infinite and connected to source.
That one.
So the beam is that.
Yeah.
So it's not outside of you. And I think that's a powerful distinction because I have another friend who is connected to that, but it's not a different name. It's kind of like her big self.
Okay.
And the information's crazy. And the work she can do with God and Jesus and the angels is like out of this world, right? So I love that. So is there anything she wants to come forth and talk about?
Oh my God. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I think self-love is probably something that she'd like to talk about. there's a couple subjects that she's shown me. One is about the masculine and feminine energies moving into our divine feminine and divine masculine, so that as she's shown me right now that the planet is basically like off kilter with the masculine and feminine, and it's why we have such a hard time actually communicating. And so once that is moved back on its axis, which is part of our work here that we're supposed to be doing, so once that's back on the axis, then life will look differently. We'll communicate differently, male and female, and female to female and male to male. But it's those two. Obviously, there's only, well, maybe there's something. Anyway, we won't go there. So there's that. And then the other one that is probably another top one for her would be the 3 kinds of love. So you tell me, would you like to talk about masculine, feminine energy or the 3 kinds of love?
3 kinds of love.
Okay, that's what I thought. So there is, and again, this is stuff that's only come from her. It could be somewhere else out there in the world, but so far it's the only place we've heard it. There's the frequency of love. There's the story of love. That's the one that we play most in this human 3D realm. Okay. As you start moving into the 5 days, you start feeling more of the frequency of love. But the story of love is basically what we have been conditioned to think love is. So like, how you're supposed to be a good daughter to your mother, right? And how we're supposed to be good wives to our husbands or wives to our other wives or whatever it happens to be. How we're supposed to love our children, right? All of these are supposed to be, right? So that's all the story of love. And there's nothing, what is that?
I wasn't thinking that was real. I was thinking that was energy.
Yeah.
We just heard a noise in
There's
the
somebody
office.
walking on the ceiling.
And I was like, oh, that's no accident.
Yeah.
Who's here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the story of love. And it's okay to have the story of love.
Yeah.
As long as you understand there are other aspects of love. So then you move into the frequency of love. And the frequency of love feels mostly like gratitude for the most finite things in life. So the frequency of love would be like this. I absolutely love that I get to sit here and stare into your beautiful eyes for the last hour. And I love that we can have this communication and that we can have this conversation on a really real level.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels good.
Feels great.
It feels great. Yeah.
Love it.
Yes. Love it. So frequency of love is something that you tap into, and it's a very intimate thing.
And mostly it's not present.
And mostly it's not present.
Even when we're saying, I love you.
Yeah.
It's mostly not present, just to point that out.
You're correct. So I was going to say most people have not felt this feeling all the way because they're stuck in the story of love, and because there's no concept that you even know that there's a frequency of love, right? So the frequency of love definitely will be more present in the 5D as we continue to transition. And then there's the beingness of love. And the beingness of love is that once you have become whole as a human spirit being, you get to express love from self-love only. Love is not actually meant to be given. So love is an expression. And if you are 100% whole in self, then I can sit here in my love for self and be 100% complete. And somebody will experience me as the most beautiful love, and they will think I am giving them love, but in actuality, I'm the beingness of love.
That's powerful.
That one's a little harder to get to.
That's so powerful, though.
Yes.
But yes, very difficult to get to.
It is. And we're all, in this ascension process as humans to get whatever we need to get here on the planet for our next ascension of our soul's journey into wherever we're going. But there's an ascension process happening. It happens with the earth, right? We're going through that right now. So Mother Gaia is actually ascending right now and really shifting in many different ways. Then we have the ascension of our souls, which our souls are always ascending back to oneness, right? That's like the whole part of creation is literally constantly trying to be a better version of soul in order to get closer and closer to oneness. And you can do the same replication in the human, constantly trying to better yourself and evolve in order to be the best whole human and soul that you can be. And so you can do this thing here on earth of the beingness of love. Most people have done it. Are people like Buddha and
Yeah.
Gandhi and people like that. And they have such a peace about them, but the peace is they're fully whole. Um,
Can I ask a question?
yeah. Sorry, we could talk forever.
I know, but I have this question that I just got present to. I'm going to say we make it hard. Why do we make it so hard to transcend and to be the beingness of, like, why do we struggle and resist? And because when I hear you speak or when I hear others speak, I'm just so in the, like, yes, surrender, that, right? And then there's like the human everyday experience that is a barrier to that. So why does that ascension have to be? It probably doesn't have to be, but like, why is it such a struggle?
I think so. We play this game here on Earth. It's called forgetting to remember.
Yeah.
So we've set up our construct and our matrix to forget so that we could remember.
Yeah.
You know, every time you remember something and you have that aha moment and it feels so good, yeah, we're doing that on purpose. Right? And so this ascension, we're playing a game with ourselves. We all have the same knowingness, right? We are all energy that has pure knowingness. This body has its own consciousness as well. Our energy has a consciousness that is all created, that is all connected to creation.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm any different. The only difference is that I connect to it more openly and more frequently than most people do, right?
I would say you're also more present to that you're connecting to it. It's intentional.
Right.
Whereas other people may be connecting, but it's by accident.
Exactly.
And they don't know how to access it on a regular basis.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's the knowing and kind of taking the veil off a little bit of our game and going, oh, wait, you mean I'm the creator of the Matrix and I'm playing in the Matrix? Wait. And a lot of people, you know, there are some, I won't say a lot, there are some people who are playing their own game of I am a victim.
Yes.
Right? They're playing their game of I am living in someone else's world.
Yeah.
They are playing the game of I don't have any part in this and it's being done to me. And those people struggle on a different level for different reasons because they are not aware of all the rules to the game, right? So they haven't woken up yet to what we're actually doing here and that we really did just create a game to forget certain things so that we could remember them because the remembering moves us further into our ascension. So it's like we're constantly craving knowledge. We're constantly craving that next thing to know. When you start feeling that knowingness, right? That's validation. And then the validation grows into your next piece of your journey and your next piece of your journey, your next piece of your journey. Some people are at a different part in their journey where they don't care to be woken up to those things yet.
Yeah.
Because they are learning certain lessons about what they need to learn about in their own ascension.
Okay. So for people listening, I think this is important to point out. What you're saying, I believe.
Translate for us now.
What you're saying is, I believe it to be 1,000% true. And I just want to say there's evidence of it everywhere. And I don't think I'm not saying that what Eva is saying isn't unique, but there is evidence for this all over the place. One thing that just came to my mind is I love Neil Donald Walsh, and he writes Conversations with God, and he writes a children's book. Have you ever read his children's book?
No, I haven't.
It's beautiful. I've been reading it Ken and I have been reading it to Stella since she was born. And it says exactly this. Like, as a being before we come here, and I'm going to probably butcher this, so please take this with a grain of salt and read the book. But before we come here, we decide what we want to learn. Like, I want to be a being of forgiveness. Well, then that means that you're going to have a lot of opportunities in this lifetime to need to forgive.
Yeah, there you go.
And I don't know why I just got moved by that. But
I'll tell you why in a second, yeah.
But it is that we forget that, I'm so moved. We forget that being that we chose to be here as.
Crying, yeah, because we forget.
Yes,
and it's
then
painful when we forget.
Right. And we even go into agreements with others before we're here. Like, I need you to be the person to do that awful thing to me so that I can forgive, so that I can know myself as forgiveness, right? And I think that book is so profound, but I wanted to point to that because that is what you're saying, and that most people aren't aware of, haven't woken up to.
Yeah, thanks for being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the thing is that when we forget, like even the word forget, it's really, it's painful.
Yeah.
It's really painful here. Because, and I explain this to my clients, because they just have this feeling of like not really wanting to be here and not really liking human beings and not really, they're kind of already, they're always irritable towards humans and they're trying to do their best. And I think the number one thing is to let them know is like, you're not from here.
Right.
And when you understand and you really believe that you're not from here, and that the place that you're from, that all of us are from on some level, right? We come from different places, different galaxies, different, but they all are so much lighter frequency than here. And it is really hard to be here in human being form. There's so many lessons here on this planet, and it's why you sign up to be here. And so it's very different than home. And so it feels really, really bad to the system when you come here, because it feels nothing like home, because home is light and home is love and home has such different feelings to it.
Yeah.
And then you come here and you're like, why am I here? Like everything's so much harder, right?
And I think
we figure out a way somehow.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that's why I know that's why people love babies. And that's why everyone wants to pick up a baby and hold a baby or puppies, because they're connected to source. And it's kind of like our reminder, that that's who we are.
Well, it's the same thing as nature.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
So if you go into nature, right, there's like, why do I feel so good when I'm in nature? It's because it feels more pure energy, pure love, like where we're from.
Yeah.
So once you understand, you're not actually from here.
Yeah.
Okay. So then leave that aside. And then the second thing, there was something else we were going to say.
And by the way, why you think of that, by the way, if you're listening to this and you think this is so crazy and you can't get your mind around it, just don't listen anymore. Like, move on to the next thing. It's okay. This is just where Jaki and I live from. So this is not the truth to now believe in or to resist believing in. So I just want to point to that. Like, you are on your journey, and wherever you're at in your journey is beautiful, and embrace it and let it unfold as it is. Because I know 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready for this conversation. And,
and I also believe that everybody that's tuning in
is here for a reason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think it's also watching yourself and your resistance.
Yeah.
What does come up when we're talking about this stuff that you're so resistant to, and maybe having a conversation with yourself about what that resistance is, and then what's coming up, that there's a knowingness for you and a remembering for you, and also having a conversation yourself about what is that too, so that you can kind of like get a little bit deeper into, if I'm really resisting this super hard, there's a reason for it. And if I'm all of a sudden crying with Keri because there's something that's like, it reminds me of something, there's something to that too. I think that's what I was going to say. So the last thing that we were going to say was, people come to us, they used to come to us to explain their purpose here. And that's very much what the book is saying.
Speaking?
Us, Eva and I.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people used to come to you and Eva about what their purpose is?
Yeah. And that's basically what your book was starting to say, was that your purpose is most of the time your deepest trauma.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's like that, and it's not something fun to hear, but a lot of people think like, oh my gosh, my purpose is this thing.
To be so happy.
Right. And it's like, no, you came here with a lot of trauma. And if you choose to work through all of the aspects of what that thing is, it becomes your greatest gift. And that is your purpose here. And so I think ours was love. And so we now speak about it as well, but it was having to experience a lot of abandonment and a lot of not so good love and narcissists and things like that. And then having such a heavy ideal of what our story of love was, coming from a dance background and watching two people dance together. And as a child going like, oh, that's what love is. And it's such a fairy tale. And like all of these things in my life were built a very specific way in order to get me to break down what love actually is. And now I'm only just now reaching the point where I can see love in a completely different way. And I can also see all the illusions that I was living in for most of my life. But that I think is one of my true purposes here is I had to go through a lot of shit and I had to learn, look at each little piece of that in order to be a master of it now. And now I've mastered it because I've been doing it my whole life.
Yeah.
And now I can actually speak upon it as if I'm a master. And that is my purpose. And my purpose is then to speak about that to others.
Yeah.
But it's not light. It's not like, oh, yay, I found my purpose. It's like, yeah, no, I worked hard for that purpose.
Yeah.
I worked hard for that. And now I can talk about it because I know the ins and outs of every piece of it.
Yeah.
Because I've lived it. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, well, as we wrap it up, because we've covered so much, and I'm going to actually go through and listen to this again.
Yeah.
Because there's so many.
We went really fast with some of the spiritual stuff, I think.
And it's like so many golden nuggets that I think that if you listen to this again and again, you're going to get new things.
Yeah, I agree.
And as your awareness changes, so maybe it's next week, maybe it's, tomorrow.
Like little concepts like, oh, wait, what? I'm not from here. Right. Title number 1, what? I'm not from here. And then that little nugget, right? That little seed starts growing in the mind and in the body and goes, wait, if I'm not from here, where would I be from?
Right.
Does that feel true to me? Does that feel true to me that I'm not from here? Same thing with money. Wait, what? Money is a woman?
Yeah.
And she wants to do what?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that feel true to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really important because, again, I never want to put my opinions on people.
Yeah. No.
Like, this is a conversation, and it's what you and I believe at our core. And again, if you're in our stratosphere, there's a reason you're in our stratosphere. And, a long time ago, or when I was about to start this podcast, you know what I wanted to call it? It's not about the clothes.
Yeah, I love that.
That's what I was going to call it. And then I was like, that's kind of a strange name. I'll call it Style Your Dreams, which fits.
Does.
But I think my book is going to be called It's Not About the Clothes. Because some people think that what I do is shallow. And it's so much deeper than putting the right clothes on someone. It's about what that energetically does to them.
And when I'm hearing you say it, like I'm not hearing the words, I'm hearing the vibration of that. And to me, it sounds like it's not about what you look like. So it's not the body.
No.
Right? So it's like, it's the soul. It's not the body. And so it's not, to me, it's not the dressing of the even clothes. It's the dressing of the body on the soul.
Yeah.
And like, it's about your soul, not your body.
Yeah. And we do live in this 3D world.
Yeah.
And I believe that when you don't feel good about yourself, like you look in the mirror and you're like, well, that's fine, that your vibration is so low that you can't even hear these kinds of conversations, that we first have to raise your vibration, which is through how you look and how you see yourself, and back to what you're saying, self-love.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just throw on your workout clothes every day and expect that life is going to be everything you've ever dreamed of.
Right.
Because you're not looking in the mirror going, I'm gorgeous, I'm worth it, I'm enough, I am ready for the next level. Like, I'm open to what the universe is going to give me. So for me, that's why I do what I do. And that's why this conversation just kind of adds a lot to it. So as we close, is there anything else Eva would like to say?
No, the only thing that's popping up is just the thing that you said. When we don't feel good, and this is kind of before Eva's time, but when Jaki wouldn't feel good with herself, she would make sure to do her hair that day.
Right.
And do her makeup that day.
Yes.
And, of course, like we all deal with insecurities. It's built
100%.
into our system,
Yeah.
right? But the reason why it's built into the system is to try and separate you from self.
Yeah.
Right. And so the more that you separate from self, the more that you lower your vibrations. And
Yeah.
so the whole concept of this ascension is that you become one with self. And that's kind of that oneness and going back to just the being that you actually are, right?
Yeah.
Beingness of love. But there are so many fun things that have also been given to us in humanity, and clothes and makeup are two of the most fun things.
Yeah.
And so like the fact that we get to clothe ourselves the way that we do is supposed to be a fun experience in order to enhance our experience here.
Yeah.
It's not to hide behind. And so, yeah, if you don't feel good, and I'm sure you said this before, but if you don't feel good, then do your hair and do your makeup.
Right.
Because
Spend
I guarantee
5
you,
minutes.
you will feel better.
Yeah.
And so, it's putting the lipstick on the pig a little bit.
Right.
But it's okay
It
because
changes.
what it does is it just moves your vibration up
A
slightly.
little bit. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're able to receive more and more and more higher level of frequencies, and it will change your entire mood, entire day. So,
Yeah. And then one other thing, not to open a new can, but one other thing that just came to me in what you said is I also work with tons of people on their body issues, right? Because we all
have them.
have them.
We all have them.
And it's fascinating because the more you can own your soul being in this body, mostly we resist that this is our body, right? Which was what you were pointing to. Like, this is my body. I don't have another body in this lifetime. This is it.
Yeah.
And the more I resist that this is it, this is my stomach, these are my thighs, this is my face, these are my eyes. Didn't mean to rhyme, but
That was pretty cool.
the more that we do that, the more that we resist, it's putting a barrier between us and our higher selves.
That's right. That's the separation, yeah.
Yeah, and it just creates more and more separation. And it's so ingrained in our society that that's just the way that it is. And I'm tired of it. Because just because something is the way that it is doesn't mean it's the way it has to be or the way that it was meant to be.
No.
Amen?
Amen to that.
So the quicker you can own your relationship with your body and love your body in all of its flaws,
okay,
the quicker you can integrate.
So it's kind of funny because you're almost talking about the not to have the separation, and we actually talk about the separation. So the way that it has been explained to me, Jaki, is well, maybe I'll just let Eva talk instead. Hold on. Yeah, I'm like, I just took over. I'm like, me, Jaki. No, I want to talk. Is our body has also been contracted to be here.
Yes.
And so it also signed up to be here, and it signed up to carry our big light through this lifetime. And so you don't want to, it's already going to deteriorate like a vehicle normally would. It's already holding and carrying us as souls, which is so powerful. And its whole purpose here is to carry us from here to here. And over the time, it already starts breaking down. So you want to try and be as loving and as caring to it as possible, because it already has the biggest job to possibly do. And it has signed on to be here specifically with you. So to us, we are not our body. But in fact,
it's a vehicle.
It is a vehicle, and it is a precious vehicle that has chosen to give its time and its energy to you, to carry you through this beautiful experience. And we tend to abuse it in these ways. And I think that when you realize it's actually not yours, and that it's only a vehicle, but that vehicle has given its 100% to you this whole time, to also honor and love it and make sure that you appreciate it, make sure that you say thank you for it. And so like saying, Yeah, thank you, ass, for being that big, and thank
To
you.
get me
Like,
up those stairs every
honestly,
day.
yeah.
Yeah, I
And as
know.
my light continues to grow and continues to shine and be bigger and bigger and bigger, I get heavier and heavier and heavier. It's just how it is. And my body starts to expand out because my light is actually getting bigger, not because because the body is just trying to hold the light.
Yeah.
Right? And so we like to think of it a little bit differently, but either way, floats your boat, it doesn't matter. Be kind to yourself. And love yourself.
I think either way, love your body.
Love yourself. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because that is the most, because it does so much.
Well, it's the only reason why you're here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, why you can be here, right?
Right.
Because otherwise we're energy. We're infinite energy. So the body is extremely important because it's the thing that's holding you here.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, guess what? You're not here.
Yeah.
So it allows you to have all the experiences here. So yes, go and walk barefoot in the grass.
Yeah.
And like, remember that it's only the feet that make you touch the ground, nothing else. So you're only being connected by feet to this planet. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Every time we, as a family, do a hike, well, every time I'm out in nature, or, we did some hard hikes and things on our last trip, and every moment I was so grateful. And I would point to it with my family. I would say, we're so grateful for our health because a lot of people could never do what we just did.
Totally.
They could never see the beauty of this castle because they couldn't do the stairs.
Right.
So be grateful.
Yes.
There's so much to be grateful, right? Yeah. That you have the money to go on a trip, that you can walk up the stairs. So living in gratitude, I think, is one of the most powerful things that we could do. Okay, well, we really could talk for days. So
yes.
We'll end it here.
Yep.
And who knows, maybe there's another podcast in our future to take it a little deeper.
You guys tell us.
Exactly. Right? If you love this conversation, please subscribe and rate us, give us a 5-star rating. And then also on a much more surfacey, if you're wanting a better relationship with your body, I have a free gift for you. In the show notes is the top 4 genes that look great on every woman, which can get you one step closer to that high vibe.
Nice.
So check that out and tune in to us next week. And thank you so much for listening. If you listened this far, you're a kindred spirit. Yes. And we love you.
And I will say, if I can plug.
Yeah.
Obviously, I have a ballroom dance studio, so if you guys need dance lessons.
Yes,
but
please.
More importantly is I'm moving from the dancing into the channeling full time. So I have channeling clients. So if you feel like
how can people find you?
Contact you.
Okay. So if you want a channeling session with Jaki, reach out to me. You can send me a DM on Instagram, and I'll make sure you get connected.
Phone number on the bottom of this or something. Yeah.
Great. And we can put her phone number in the show notes. Yes. All right. Thank you so much for your time. It was so great. And have a magical day.
Bye.
Bye.